Again, we've got two terms. We have love and we have the crown of glory, and they are one and the same. So whoever has love has life. So even if there's the slightest glimmer of loving someone, life is present. And vice versa, but particularly that. So whoever has love has life and radiates life wherever they walk. So people around them are not going to be as depressed or distressed as they were, because that choosing of the love opens up that life and radiates it. All right. And the next sentence, this is the power of the 12 lessons of Jesus and of Moses and the 12 stones of the new temple. Nothing like it has ever been discovered in power and effectiveness or in speed of operation. Yes. And when Paul said love is the fulfilling of the law, Jesus, who said, I come not to challenge the law, but to fulfill it, was so filled to overflowing with love that the conditions of this world didn't concern him in the least. And there is some wonderful material in the Gnostic writings of how Jesus was so joyful that, yeah, this other stuff would be going on, and he'd go, that's not me that's affected, right? Who I am isn't affected by any of that stuff, including the crucifixion. So his life was his doctrine. Wouldn't that be lovely to be able to say about ourselves, that our life is our doctrine? Yeah. Seeing their heavy miseries, he descended into miseries that seemed even greater to show them how to ascend out of them.
Boy, that has gotten confused, hasn't it?
Certainly. Just as a fireman goes into a burning building or a doctor into a plague-filled hospital, right? So going into that space, and in the last sentence there, and as with the fireman or doctor, Jesus' love and skill overcame those miseries, and he was never hurt by them. Okay? And if you grew up in a Catholic tradition, particularly with some of the more doctrinal Catholics, they will tell you that, you know, our job is to suffer because Jesus suffered, right? No, right? He did not, and we don't have to. Yeah.
This morning we were having coffee at the coffee roasters, and there was this family that wanted a picture taken, so Becky took a picture of them, and they gave us their card because they ride unicycles or across the country or whatever.
Ooh.
And and the thing is they're very, very Christian, but it says if they talk about Jesus dying to save us and all that, and if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us. We can never do enough good things to earn God's approval.
Oh.
All we must do is confess our sins and follow Jesus, but even then we're never going to get approved. And it's kind of like,
Yeah, join
oh, how
us.
sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
How sad.
Yeah.
I think that,
Yeah. So there's two pieces to that particular doctrine, and one is don't try to do good works, because good works aren't going to get you there. The only thing that's going to get you there is God's good grace, and Jesus fixed that, so you're going to get there okay. You've got God's approval. It's okay. That's part two. But a lot of people hear it exactly the way you did. I'm never, God is a judging God. He's always going to be looking at what I'm doing wrong. He's never going to approve of me. So I have to rely on this Jesus guy, because Jesus is the only way I'm going to get through the gate. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the ways that people have taught it. And it is so sad to know that people are living in this world not knowing how loved they are.
You know, as children in Catholics, we were taught, God is watching us, but not God watching us in love. God is watching us to see what we're doing wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Santa Claus.
Right.
It was worse than Santa Claus.
Right, way worse.
Right. And and if you've got Yom Kippur in the traditional Israeli Jewish tradition is the time he puts in the book all the things you did wrong and all the things you did right. And he closes up the book that day. And if you didn't clear up all the things you did wrong during that week between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, then your next year is going to be based on what was written in the book that day. Yeah.
Wow, talk about being umbilical to your past.
It makes it hard. It's interesting because someone just, last night, I was visiting someone in the nursing home, and another visitor came in. He says, do you know the difference between Dharma and karma? And I said, yeah. Do you want to hear about it? And he said, okay. And so I started. But, karma is the consequences of action. And every time we do, think, or say anything, there are going to be consequences. So that's what karma is, whatever they are. And the idea is to live in enough harmony with the infinite all that is, that most of our karma is going to be more harmonious, right? And Dharma is that purpose we were born to fulfill. That purpose we were born to fulfill. And here we're talking about fulfillment, right? And, if we, he says, I'm here to fulfill the law. That's my life purpose. And on the cross, he says, Yane sabachthani, for this was I born. For this did I come into human form. This is my fulfillment. On the cross. All right? He came to do that. That's who and what he was. So those who have love, in the 4th paragraph, love is stronger than death. Pure love for a child will save the life. And in italics, those who have love have freedom from every ill, right? Because they are experiencing more and more life, right? And those who have an abundance of love with which God fills the whole universe can save their friends from every ill. So it's that love that's doing it. And then the other piece is, in the epistles, we're asked and encouraged to have that mind in us which was in Christ Jesus, right? The Christ mind. And most of us have been taught that that's impossible, that only the Son of God could have that, and we couldn't possibly be the Son of God unless you do the Course in Miracles, and then you realize that all creation is the Son of God. It's God begetting, right? And we do have to run into, be aware that Muslims don't think God begets. God only creates and judges. God doesn't even love. Okay, so when you're with your Muslim friends, this is not about the Son of God, all right? And so anyway, in the Christian and ultimately in the Jewish tradition, anyone, if you get the last italics of the last paragraph, whoever gets into a state of overflowing, unquenchable love is manifesting the Christ self. And as through the Kabbalah, through the Jewish renewal tradition, they won't use the Christ, of course. They'll use the Shekinah, that loving aspect of the divinity that is all-embracing and all-supporting. Okay, the feminine aspect, if you will. So whoever gets into a state of overflowing, unquenchable love is manifesting the Christ self. Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I grew up wondering if we were ever going to do that. My grandma used to say, our purpose on the planet is to become everything that Christ was. That's what we're here to do. And yet there were so many blocks against that, right? Including a lot of churches that said it could never happen. So if it is to become to be able to do everything he did, because he said, these things and more shall you do. Okay, it was a promise. You shall do that. Then how are we going to be able to do that? When you've been in that, yeah. But the practice is to get you to the point of this state of overwhelming, unquenchable love. And most of us get that for just a second. Again, a beautiful sunset sky, an incredible spot in the forest, the light in a perfect way. Sometime when we're in love with people, or when we've got a baby in our arms, or whatever it is, that's, when we have that experience. And what we're invited to do is to live that every moment of every day. Yes?
What was your grandmother brought up in, that she would have that wisdom at that, at that time in the world and stuff? How I mean, that's amazing, that to learn that.
A good point.
At a young age that you did.
She Her father was a geology professor at Princeton. And on weekends, he rode his horse around to all the Methodist churches and he did the Methodist Sunday service. So he was a circuit riding preacher for the Methodist tradition while she was growing up. Now, she spent several years not living with him because her mother died and she was shipped off to the grandparents. But when he remarried, she went back. And so she lived with him for her first 7 years of her life and then from 12 to 19. And that's when he was doing that work. I'm guessing some of it came from that, because John Wesley got this. If you've sung the Methodist hymns, he got this at some level. But it wasn't that we would all become the Christ. So at 19, she went to India. And she began to actually work with the people in the villages. You know, she learned to cook over the fire in the floor. She learned to wear a sari, although she never could play tennis in a sari. Her girlfriends could. Yeah, her girlfriends would out there play tennis in a sari.
Wow.
That image has just always blown me away. And the way her youngest daughter was born in this country, but I think they got pregnant on the way over or somewhere, because it was, but the other two were born in India. And I think somewhere along the way in all of that, she began to pick up some of the Hindu philosophy. And her younger daughter said that Grandma came back more Hindu than Christian, even though she continued to identify as a Methodist for the rest of her life. And so she was teaching me, or exploring with me. She never taught anything to me, actually, as far as philosophy goes. But she would explore. We would ask questions. We would read. And reincarnation was very real. I was reading Joan Grant's, farm memory, past life regression stuff between 10 and 12. So it was very much a part of that. And she just she had an open mind. And when I started to study Troward, and Henry Fosdick was one of her favorites. And so when I got into a Unity church that had an old library, I started recognizing some of my grandmother's books. And another piece was, she was working during the Depression in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. They ran a settlement house. And it happens that Nona Brooks, who was in Colorado, where I was going to be born 20 odd years later, used to go to the camps in that part of the state. And they had a summer cabin right next to one of those camps. So she had a lot of opportunities to open up to these ideas. Yeah. So I hope it was wonderful. And, and she would point out, there's this line in the Bible. And I remember at 7 going, okay, I guess that's what I'm here to do. That's what he said, so that's what we're going to do. And that's part of why, apologies to lifelong UUs, that's why I left the UU church at 7. Because I wasn't getting any of that. I thought that's what we were here to do. And I wasn't getting it, so I didn't go back to Sunday school anymore. I had been a UU from birth, but I didn't go back. So then somewhere around, I got into a Baptist group and then a Presbyterian group, and then I married a Catholic, and my aunt and uncle were Jewish, and so they all fed. And then I took comparative religions at 18, and then I was done. So all of those things contributed.
Point of clarity, is reincarnation a process of evolving?
Yes.
Okay. In this particular science, do we need to reincarnate?
Good for you. The point of this particular material is so that we don't have to. It's to get us off the wheel. Okay? And we wouldn't be open to this material. Are you guys okay? Yeah.
I was looking for the blankets for.
Oh, they're in the back in the corner.
I sort of looked back there.
You can.
Oh,
This is on
we didn't
74.
get back here, didn't we? That's something we didn't get back. We couldn't remember where everything went.
Anybody else
We
need a
were back
blanket?
together.
No, I'm good. Are you good? She's going to her car to get some.
I got it on at 74.
It doesn't feel like it, does it?
Depends.
Maybe we
Must
just
be
turn
in the
it
air.
off.
Probably gonna.
I can turn it off. It was cool when I came in.
Oh,
So,
yes.
So yeah, the purpose of every life is to clear out what you've built up in the past and open your awareness to what you can be. And every life is a potential for getting off the wheel, in that sequence. And they aren't necessarily linear. In fact, there's one model that says every human being that was ever on the planet is me, reincarnated, or you, reincarnated. Right, we are all the same soul, reincarnating. Okay, that's one model. That's kind of cool, right? And Ramakrishna used to say, how do you treat others? There is no other. Right? So that's an interesting approach too. But the assumption in the Hindu tradition is it's linear. The appearance based on a lot of the work I've been able to study, including the Seth work, is that it's actually all simultaneous.
Yes.
And that at any given time we are, the essence of us is on the planet, 4,000 years ago, 4,000 years from now. It's all happening and we might go from this lifetime, we might go back or we might go forward, except that the baby boomer generation came to be done. This is our last time on the planet. Some of us, if we don't do the work, will go to another planet. And that was one of Edgar Casey's teachings. And my mother had to go to Mars before she could go on with her life because of the mindset that she was living with. And I found that out 3 years after she passed on. So, but each of the planets is a plane with its own energies, and the god-goddess associated with it is the personalization of those energies. So if you're dealing with violence and fear, you go to Mars. If you're dealing with discipline and structure and it has to be a certain way, you go to Saturn, right? And all the things you know about from the zodiac are planes of existence that people who can't function in alignment with what this planet is about go on to. And then we have options from here, apparently, based on what we've gotten back from the other side, from all the different work that's been done that I've been able to track for about. I've been reading stuff from 1919 to 2019, stuff that people have written. Actually, 1880 to 1919 about this stuff, and so. From this place, those of us who choose to go on, who don't go to another planet, will go to a level of being that would be either in the astral body, where we'll feel like we have stuff and places and people to interact with, or we'll be in formlessness for a period of time, during which time we can feel the love, bliss, consciousness, Satchidananda, and then get a sense of what we are going to create next. This is a playground for creating. This is like a sandbox, this planet. And everybody can create anything on this planet. That's what this was apparently was designed to be. All the resources, all the energies are designed to create.
Reminds me of a Star Trek episode, and they had that all mixed up too.
Yeah,
So there's no reason. I mean, they couldn't do any better.
Right. Than we can. Right. So if you think of this as a sandbox to learn how to create and sustain a world, a life, a beingness, and that you have the opportunity to go on to the point where ultimately you'll be creating and sustaining your own universe. That is one path you can take, creating and sustaining a universe. So Jehovah would have been a soul who got to the point where he was able to create and sustain a universe. And apparently we moved out of his universe somewhere along the line. Anyway, that's a lot of Ruth stuff. Let's go back to lesson 12. Whoever goes into a state of overflowing, unquenchable love, any moment you've done that, that is the Christ mind. So if you're wanting to access the Christ mind, find ways to get into that overflowing, unquenchable love. Whether it's picking up a baby or a puppy, right? Or finding a sunset, or listening to a particular piece of music, or whatever.
Looking at the clouds recently.
I know, I love this kind of sky. Anytime I can see the sky, I'm better. All right, so the top of 172, first full paragraph. In this state, there is nothing for us to do. Okay, we're so wedded to doing, you know, but it's the knowing and the feeling, not the doing. What is it that we are thinking, feeling, based on what we think we know, what we believe deep down inside us, and what we feel? That's what actually gets things done. So we're given rest, and the works of our spirit go forth into the world. So when we're in that state of, that love, that whatever, then the spirit is working through us and as us, and through us, and for everyone around us that we hold in that state of unquenchable love. And sometimes beyond that, sometimes they touch people we don't even know. So this is the power of the 12th lesson. Okay? Signs and symbols. We can tell whether we've been filled with the overwhelmingly grateful love or overflowingly grateful love of this 12th lesson by the things and peoples we see. As an accusation will bring a person to us who complains of illness, a sincerely felt thankful and praiseful word brings a happy and healed case to our sight. Okay? So any of, going back to karma, any time that we have thought angry, critical, any kind of upset thoughts, we've brought to us, or we've set it up for someone to come to us who's got problems. Or for our own selves to have problems. That's what karma does, okay? So to undo it, all we have to do is go into that overflowingly unquenchable loving state. And that literally can undo the karma. That's what Jesus was doing on the cross. Undoing the karma. And we can do it for anyone that is resonating with us. So when Jesus says, do this in my name, what he's saying is, do this in resonance with my nature. Because Jesus never heard the term Jesus Christ. Yeah, Yisa Masa, Yisa Ben Yosef, maybe Yezu, maybe Yezu. That would be about as far as he would go to what we are familiar with. So it's in resonance with my nature, that Christ mind, right? In that unquenchable, overflowing love. And so the signs and symbols, another sign is a deaf and blind person in your life, a sign of some willfulness on your part. And then the next paragraph, the curves and lines of the face display what we focus on. So because the good judgment of the 11th lesson marks a face with beauty, a homely face is a sure sign that you've been accusing people of being foolish and ignorant. So people show up that aren't looking beautiful. Guess what? It's just karma. Yeah. All right. Did you ever see a calm, benign countenance? Seeing it means that you once said calm, peaceful words and thought that way, in harmony with your words. You were feeling that calm and that peace. That's the middle of that paragraph that starts, if you see. All right. So anything we are seeing in the world or experiencing in our lives is telling us what we've been thinking and feeling in the past. If she has said that once, she said that 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 different times, right? The next page, money as gold is a symbol of the rich bounty of the Creator Sustainer. The topaz is a sign of great achievement. The amethyst tells you everything is good and wise and satisfied. Yes? But then, always the caveat, don't lay too much stress upon any kind of sign or symbol, because it's all the material symbol, right? None of these is the thing itself. It's just saying that it's a present. It's saying that it has been present or is about to be present. It's not the thing. When you look at any object, speak the meaning In that is its life and substance. What is the meaning of this thing in my life? That's where the substance is. And if it's not good, don't ask. It doesn't exist, right? What is the meaning of that accident? No, that accident didn't happen, right? In the omnipotent no, if people, anyone in the space had been in that harmonious place, the two cars would have just gone past each other. You guys had that. I think of it every now and then when I'm coming in on Seal Rock, and Larry talks about this car that was in the wrong lane going up the hill just north of Seal Rock, and then it wasn't there. It just wasn't there when you guys arrived. Right? And then I think about my student Denise, who is so determined to get to class on time that even though everyone around them saw her car and this other thing intersect, there was no damage on either one and they both went their way. Right? The omnipotent no does not see that. It negates its existence. It dissolves the possibility of it because the omnipotent yes is stronger. Okay? So we don't ask the whys and the wherefores of calamities or distress. We only look for the meaning behind a neutral or obviously beneficial arrival. All right? Cool.
Yes.
Praise and gratitude undo complaints. This next sentence is one of the ones I quote frequently. There is only one don't. There's only one don't in the science of metaphysics. Don't complain. And you know, I am human. I complain. But I do keep it to a minimum. And it's most not because I'm, you know, manning up, putting on my cowgirl boots or whatever, you know, all the various phrases are. It's because 9 times out of 10, the thing that I thought I needed to complain about was exactly the right thing to facilitate what I'm really looking for. Right?
Well, I didn't realize how impatient I was.
Ah.
And a whole series of things were presented to me to show me that I was impatient.
Ooh.
Because I evidently was not aware of it or denying it. But I've noticed over the last couple weeks, and I have a lot of reasons to think about impatience.
Yes.
Is that I'm finding I'm not nearly as impatient as I was 2 months ago.
Wonderful.
I got behind somebody today on my way down here doing 23 miles an hour.
Oh, those are so hard when you're trying to get someplace on time on the coast, yes.
And I just said, yeah, but we had a storm the last couple days. The ocean ought to be beautiful. And I had a chance to enjoy it because I didn't really have to look at where I was going. I had it on Smart Cruise and I was within, you know, a car length of it. And so I could just really enjoy it. And I found, wow, I don't think I would have done that when these lessons started.
Ah, nice. Very nice. Well done. Yeah, easing into life and not feeling pressured by it is amazing. Well done. So you got an extra little help to help you experience more patience. Thank you. Thank you. So don't complain. Whatever we do, we're not to grieve, lament, wail, or mourn. Okay, so grieving. Absolutely. You have a loss. Your Adam self, your normal human self needs to grieve. Do it. Just don't wallow in it. I mean, really. And yes, when a significant other is no longer in their life, for the first year, it hurts. The Adam self is going to be hurting. The small self, the human self is going to hurt. And it's okay. And it's less and less over the course of the year. And every time it happens, we remember, oh, this is just the human self. This is not who I really am. We allow ourselves to feel it and then move on from it. And praise and gratitude undo the complaints. All right? And we get to realize all the feelings, all the positive and negative feelings we had about the relationship in that first year. And then in the second year, and this is where you are now, we start to go, oh, this is who I am when I'm not bouncing against that other person all the time, right? And it feels different. And still there will be times when, oh, I wish you were here, and the tears and whatever. But it's much less so. And then in the third year, it's, oh my, okay, I'm in the world. And this is who I am. I can do this, right? That's usually the third year. Sometimes it takes a little longer, and sometimes it takes a lot less, but that's usually how it goes. To be in the 5th or 7th or 10th year and act as if it's still the first year, that's what she's talking about here. Does that make sense? All right, very good. Nothing limits our understanding or the power flowing through us like grief of that kind, okay? Like being in that. I miss it, I'm unhappy, I'm miserable, I'm lonely, I wish the world were different, right? All of that stuff. It blocks the power. All right. Next paragraph. Some people think they would be satisfied if they only had this or accomplished only that. Okay. Not so. If they mourn now, they'd find something to mourn about later. Right? Now, the Buddha's first noble truth is usually interpreted by initially British explorers as suffering is inevitable, but that is not what it says. Literally, the Buddha first noble truth is no thing ever fully satisfies.
That's interesting.
No thing ever fully satisfies it. So that gets back to the signs and symbols. It's a thing. It's a sign. It's a symbol. And because it's a thing, it's going to wear out. It's going to break down. It cannot fully satisfy the infinite being that you are. It's a thing.
And grieving can't fully satisfy either.
That's right. It's a process. It's an experience. If we don't allow it, though, the body gets upset because that human self needs to have that stuff expressed. We need to express the grief. We need to express the anger. We need to express all that stuff that came up when those people started acting like that, right? We need to know that and feel that and move beyond it. Right? Someone reminded me of Swami Bhayandananda the other day. Well, it was a bit of a joke, but he was quite wise, and I think he's still doing his work. Anyway, but moving beyond what the feeling is. Feel the feeling, release it, replace it with a truth, a higher truth, a higher understanding. So when I have grieved the absence of someone who is dear to me, the higher truth is they're never really absent. Yes, it's not possible to go over and do this. And yes, I may not always hear the voice. And yes, now I got to chop all the vegetables and right, all the things that we used to share, whatever it is. However, they're here, right? Every time I open myself to the people I've loved, they're here. It is so wonderful, right? And and that is the higher truth. They're never absent. And only if we hold them to be absent will we not be aware of their presence. Because we're telling the mind body, no, I can't hear him, I can't see him, I can't feel her, I don't know her, she's not here. And the body's going, are you sure? Okay, if you insist. And even though it's right there all the time, that loving presence. Do you want to say something?
Well, it's just, when I step out and do these things for the first time, and try new things, I'm very keenly aware of how proud he is.
Beautiful. Beautiful. They got together when they were 19. She was 19. Yeah, and so he's seeing you step into your power, and he's going, go girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are times I actually hear that.
Yes. Right, yeah, and that's available to all of us, and everyone that has ever loved us. Thank you, dear, for sharing that. I appreciate that.
And at night, I still maintain that I can go see anyone, do anything I want, and I make full use of every night, because I'm not tied to this reality or this body, and I have a lot of fun. I don't always remember it, but
And then you have a party when you wake up in the morning.
yeah, had one this morning.
Yay. Love that. Yeah, yeah. So that is part of what being who we are, fully who we are, is about. And there are other cultures on this planet that know this. And, and Europeans come in and say, oh, those primitives.
Heathens.
Heathens, well, yeah, heathens who have no idea what's reality, they're in this fantasy, imaginary world. I was talking with someone yesterday who loves to be in nature, and he trained as a forester, and I don't know why he isn't working as one now, but he goes into nature as much, and he says one of the things he likes to do is see what unseen presence, feel what unseen presence is there. And he says he can feel sparkly, lively energy, and he knows that there's something like fairies here, and sometimes he'll feel this deep, dark kind of, deeper presence. And he says, I think that's a guardian of the forest. Right? And every now and then he'll be somewhere and he gets a, don't go here. And it's usually around a mine or something where humans have done some really nasty stuff. But I think that's an interesting thing if you want to add a new dimension to your hikes.
We went in to go mushrooming, and we wanted to be there early in the morning, but we arrived in the forest at about, probably about 5:30 in the morning. And there was just enough light that we weren't tripping over something,
Right.
but not a whole lot more. And there were these, it looked like glowing snowflakes on the ground. And they kind of went up a tree, and they weren't moving, they were static, but it was fairy-like. There was no other way to describe it. And we both stood there. I mean, we didn't want to interrupt anything because it was all happening. And you could almost feel the communication happening.
Oh, lovely.
Of all of this. And we went back after sunup to that spot, and everything looked just normal. It was just green. There were no white. There was nothing white there that would have reflected even a little bit of light. But all of this was happening, and it was pretty awesome.
Magical. I love it. Beautiful, beautiful. So, if you look at your events of your life as making you sad and hard, you must cancel the thought and see the good, right? We've heard this enough now. But in the next paragraph, if anybody speaks to you critically, listen carefully. There is a piece of news for you about your own tendency to criticize and condemn yourself or others. So you can now take that tendency and negate it. Okay? And we come from a culture where we have been trained to criticize and judge and condemn and evaluate. And so it's not too surprising that it comes up around us, right? But whenever anyone starts telling you, you could have done this better, or you shoulda, or you coulda, or whatever, it's generally just telling you, yeah. And sometimes it's actually your own voice coming to you from another person. And you've been ignoring it, and it's, I think I can let go of that idea now.
And generally it comes from someone that that you have not, they haven't been your favorite person.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I found that finding something good to say about them really helps cancel that out.
It really does. And if you can get to a place where all you see and feel when you think of them is light and love, you'll not hear anything critical from them again until you come back around on the spiral. And then it's a sign, oh, look, I've gotten in that old habit again, but it's at a whole new level. So that's cool. The next sentence at the bottom of that page, cynicism is a form of ingratitude. Cynicism is a form of ingratitude that brings the most extraordinary people around us and hides the true nature of things. That is so amazing, especially in our world. Again, we've been taught to judge, evaluate, criticize, and condemn, and to be cynical is to be smart. Yeah, only foolish people are Pollyannas. Yeah. How can you be such an idealist? How many times have I heard this? You know, how can you possibly be optimistic in this world? Well, let me tell you what's really happening.
You just don't understand.
I get it. I get it. How dare you say you understand? I just heard that one yesterday.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, really? I've only been doing this work for 30 years, and you're only the 50th person I've encountered dealing with this, you know, and I've dealt with it too. Yeah, sorry, kiddo. So that's me speaking to me, right? When someone does that, it's not someone out there doing it to me. So the fact that I heard that yesterday told me how off kilter I was and how judgmental of myself and others I had become in my off kilterness. Okay? So whenever anything like that comes, it's just a sign. It's time to dissolve those behaviors, those thoughts, those ideas, and get back to the truth. And the truth is overwhelming, unquenchable love. Okay. There's that paragraph, the second paragraph on 174. If you feel low-spirited and dissatisfied, you need not negate or deny your circumstances. You need only describe the good of your circumstances. Okay? And sometimes that is quite a discipline. Right? If you have sunk into something that some people call depression, it's very hard to see anything but gray and yuck, right? And so I actually kept for a long time a list of things to remind me that what is good for when I could not remember what is good. Yeah, and at the very least I woke up in a comfortable bed. Yeah, I was warm and comfortable when I woke up. That's, if all else fails, I can start there. You know?
There's a great little book called 14,000 Things to Be Happy About.
That's right.
And all it is, this lady kept steno books for 20 years. And all it was a list of things that made her happy. Year after year after year, page after page. And they basically published the list. You can't turn a page without it bringing up some positive
Marvelous.
memory.
So you can do it in your journals or buy the book. Thank you. So starting from thanks, the next paragraph. Do you recall how Jesus gave thanks when Lazarus was buried cold and still? He had waited to treat his friend as a demonstration of our tendency to delay our praises, right? And now his friend had been declared dead. So give thanks to the Spirit that it always does everything good for you. So the gospel says he's standing in front of this cave that a stone has been rolled in front of. He tells them to roll away the stone, and everyone says, "But Master, he stinks," because it's been 3 or 4 days since the body, and it's the desert, you know, and like that. And so he tells them to do that, and while they're doing that, he's going, "Father, I thank you that you always grant my requests." And then Lazarus come forth. So in that place of overwhelming love, overflowing, unconditional love, we feel the power, and it does its work. So transcendence. This next section is a powerful, powerful next step for most of us. The 12th lesson sets aside the doctrine of limitation. We have all been taught we are limited beings. We have all been taught we can only do so much. There's always a limit or whatever. This planet is a closed system. There's no way you can, whatever. And we always find another way. We always do. All right? And so limit is there and it's there, but I want to go to the next page. The axiom of the 12th lesson is, they that know me transcend me. Whoever truly knows the self that I am has transcended beyond the God that he or she imagined before. So Jesus said these things, and greater shall you do. If we know that state of being, if we are in harmony, in resonance with that nature and that character, if we have that mind in us, if we are that love, then there's going to be things we do that never happened while he was on the planet. I don't know what they look like. It might be walking into a hospital and having everyone get up and walk out. It might be completely transforming the governments of the planet. We are called to do these things. We wouldn't be upset about them if we weren't called to do something internally to get to the place where they are no longer in our lives. Isn't that wonderful? Greater. These things and greater shall you do. Just entering into that mind space. Yes, then we transcend what we have seen before. We transcend our understanding of that, of anything. Okay? Next paragraph. If you see adversity as the hand of God bestowing bounty, and give thanks for the bounty, calling for it to come plainly into your sight, you have touched all the 12 lessons. So there's an appearance of adversity, whatever it is, and you're realizing, oh my goodness, this is opportunity. And I see there's an incredible possibility unfolding here. And I don't exactly know what it is, but I'm open for it. And I know that it is love, and I know that it is life, and I know that it is well-being for humanity. Yes. Yes.
I seem to be dealing with the smaller parts of life rather than all humanity.
That's fine. That's fine.
I will, if I can, I'll give
You
you
have
an
3
example.
dogs and a husband.
Yeah, right. So the hot water heater left us.
That's right.
Yes, it left us, and I saw that as an opportunity. I think I told you this before.
Yes.
So never mind. But anyway, it still comes to me because I am. We had it. It didn't happen. It wasn't a problem, and it actually enabled me to get into the garage to start clearing it out. So
Woo! Excellent.
I saw that as that, and it's mine to do.
Excellent.
Oh, it's mine to do.
And you will enjoy every moment of its clarity.
Actually, yes.
And the thing to do is to only do that much of it that is joyful in the moment.
Yeah.
Don't push.
No.
When it gets to be not joyful, it's not yours to do right now.
Right.
You might come back in 5 minutes, you might come back in 5 weeks. It's fine. Right. 5 years, well.
No, I already did that.
Yeah, I know. But now you're feeling and you know
Yeah,
it.
that's fine.
Yeah, I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So the next paragraph. It's our life. This is one of the most important. These 2 paragraphs. It's our life's business to translate the truth within into visible manifestation. Okay? This earth plane is here to manifest into visible form what is in us. That's what we're here to do. Whether it's a stockbroker in Wall Street or a UU in Florence or a beggar in Calcutta, we are here to bring into form what is inside us. And there are different worlds. There are thousands of different worlds on this planet, billions of different worlds on this planet. It's what it's about, okay? It's our life's business. We do this by first thinking the highest truth we can, and then speaking it. So if my highest truth is, I can get through this exam, I brought that into visible manifestation, right? If my highest truth is, we can get to Wisconsin and back, then I bring that into form. If my highest truth is, Lazarus come forth, right? It's wherever you can get yourself to bring it into form.
Having to do these CEU classes, so I picked one for a long-term elder care. And I'm learning, 10 CEUs, so a 10-hour class. I learned so much about what we were talking about in our booklet and everything else, and I said, wow, this is perfect.
Yes. Love it.
And I might not have picked, I could have gone to a conference somewhere and gotten all these CEUs, but instead, I'm doing it this way, and I'm really learning a lot. So
I love it.
That's my highest manifestation at the moment.
I get that. Yeah, I will have my license.
Yeah.
That's the highest idea.
Yes.
And each piece, and in alignment with who I am and how I'm living.
Yes.
That's the other piece of it, right?
Uh-huh.
So you want to add in a little bit of that, effortless, enjoyable, and
Yeah.
energizing, whatever works, so that, the unfolding of what you have said you are bringing into manifestation is a joyful process. Wouldn't that be nice too? Right? Yes, indeed. Okay, so that's our life's business to do that. And she gives more examples. Then the next paragraph, it's our ministry to discover the truth of those around us and bring that forth into visible manifestation. Okay? Our ministry is to discover, not to decide for them. But to discover their truth and bring it forth into visible manifestation. This is what my life is, and some of you have seen some of it. And it's Portland. I was rehabbing houses, because that was what we needed to do in that community, to bring that health of the community into visible manifestation, right? In Corvallis, I was creating low-income housing for the same reason, because the only people who could afford to live there were engineers and Hewlett-Packard, right? And there were a lot of other people. So bring healthy community, a range of possibilities into visible manifestation. So it can be very physical and very hands-on, or it can be very much what we're doing here, discovering in each one of us the truth of who and what we know ourselves in our deepest heart self to be potentially, and bring that into the visible manifestation of this life. So, you use our at 70 people right now, plus or minus on a Sunday, because of that here in Florence. And they're at 30 people now, 3 Sundays in a row in Coos Bay. Hey, I got to tell you, we were lucky getting 12, 15 when we started. So this is marvelous. As soon as we've got a space where people can congregate afterwards, we're going to be up in that 50, 60 range too. But it's finding the truth and bringing it into manifest. That's what ministry is. Yeah? Yes. And we all have it.
This morning I went to the high school and I was to see one of the students being I was going to be the Aspire volunteer, and Bob Orr said, oh gosh, I meant to call you, but another student came in, your student can't meet this morning. I said, I'm so sorry. I said, oh, that's just fine, no problem at all. And so we looked at some more students and I got all their files together, and I was about to say something about myself, but I'm letting go of that.
Yay!
But it's like, so I stayed for an hour and a half, and I talked with another volunteer who was coaching me, and I just looked at each of these students, and made their files, and boy, when I left there, I was like, this is so much what I just felt so right, and so perfect. And I thought, I never remember even going to work and feeling like that. It was
I love it.
clarity.
Love it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well done, April. I'm very glad Brooke followed up on that. That's beautiful. And you know, and when I think of what you've done at Food Share, wow, you know, and how many people are benefiting from your just being you, being the love you are, right? It's just beautiful.
It was always that way. I mean, there, I just lucked into it.
You slipped into where you belonged, maybe? Another person could not have slipped in quite so comfortably. Thank you for doing it and being that. You know, and Catherine does her practitioner work, and we all, you know, this one has taken on another congregation. She is now president of a small congregation that's at that 6 to 12 range.
Wow.
Actually, we're up to about 15 to 17.
Yay! Wonderful. And you're going to grow, and there's no question. So, yeah, it's each one of us. It really doesn't matter what it looks like. There is a ministry. You know, nothing would be happening in Yahats if Callista wasn't doing what she does. All right. So the last paragraph, the great wisdom power within you is ready to spring up whenever you see wisdom expressed in a book or someone else, or even if you see for a second the wisdom of the flies and spiders in your garden or your house. Yeah. Think of your acquaintances and make a list of what is beautiful in them, remembering and appreciating how their loveliness look. Remember all the goods in your life. Doing so, you're gathering, and this is an important piece, you're gathering the tithes in the storehouse of your memory. Okay, that's one of the lines in the Bible. You know, we are to gather the tithes. Now, historically, the tithes were the first tenth of everything everyone in the 11 tribes produced that was set aside for the 12th tribe, that was the teachers, the judges, the doctors, and the priests. The Levites. They did all these administrative functions and service functions. So a tenth of everybody else's stuff went to them so that they could do this function instead of that. Okay? The gathering of whatever we have to offer in the storehouse had been here long before that, though. Long before that. And one of the interesting things is the women's temple grew out of a combination of the red tent and the storehouse, the granary. And the temple at Jerusalem was built on the site of the granary and the red tent. So that's kind of fun. Gathering the tithes in the storehouse is all the good, the very best of our life, the very best of the people around us, the very best of what we have contributed and accomplished in the world. That's what we want to hang on to. Recognizing good is what makes us good enough to show goodness. So back to that card that Sally was sharing about, I said Sally, Sarah, I cannot believe I'm still doing that to you. I love you dearly as you are. And you were sharing about these people who said we can never accomplish enough to get God's approval. We can never do enough to get, yeah. And this is what she's saying here, okay? It's recognizing the good. It's not what we are doing, it's what we recognize. When we recognize God's presence, then we are entering into that resonance with God. When we recognize God's presence as the good, recognize God's presence as the love, recognize God's presence as life, recognizing, you know, however you want to see it, then we are entering into that state in which we experience the approval, if you will, that give and take, that positive give and take with divinity. So I don't know if any of you are finding that you're working on the 6th time around for treatments for someone. One or two people, huh?
Well, my friend with the appearances of ALS.
Okay. So.
Been a year.
Right. And is it true that her heart wants to be free and mobile? You're finding her truth and making that visibly manifest.
It must be because she seems happy. Somebody told me that she's going to talk to her doctor about hospice this week. I'm going to be seeing her on Saturday.
Mhm.
You know, and she always wanted to meet the perfect man, and they had a commitment ceremony in August. And she was so happy, and see, it's right after that she's like, okay,
I'm done.
yeah, I got what I came here, what I really most wanted in my heart, I got
Oh,
it.
okay. Did you hear that she always wanted to meet the perfect man? She didn't want to have a lifetime with the perfect man? Our language is very important.
And maybe that is,
Yeah,
I guess I wouldn't have said it if there wasn't some truth in it.
yeah. So it's ours to discover their truth and bring that into visible manifestation. There are those occasional times. I remember when I was studying Reiki, and the day that our Reiki master said, sometimes healing looks like death. And I had to wrestle with that one for a while. Yeah, sometimes being able to just lay the body down and go on is the most healing thing that anyone can experience in that moment, because of a whole lot of stuff, that led to that moment. They might have not, a year or 5 years or 20 years before, and that might not have been the case. You're looking at something.
Well, on the previous page, the quote from Zoroaster.
Yeah.
Taking the first step with good thought, the second step with good word, the third step with good deed, I enter paradise. If our thoughts and words agree, we can't help but put forth the good news in our lives. We must mean exactly what we say, and that's where I'm coming from.
We must mean exactly what we say. Yes. So just a thought that, yes, it would be lovely if those symptoms were dissolved, but that's not perhaps her truth, her highest truth. And so our job is to bring that into visible manifestation. It's possible that that commitment ceremony wouldn't have happened if you hadn't been treating.
Well, there's truth in that, because it seemed questionable whether she would even live that long. Really.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
All right. Yeah, and so we don't ever want to condemn ourselves because some other standard of what looks like healing didn't happen. Okay? All right? Yeah. The gal who was on death's door because of a stroke on September 1, it's now, last night, I was rubbing her leg, her gone leg, the leg that she supposedly had no brain cells connected to, and she was going, oh, that feels good. I mean, I love it, right? Now, I didn't get her up and out of her chair and walking in my work, but, that apparently isn't what this is about. And one of the things that has happened is her daughter is reconnected with her. And they were not connected before. Her daughter had no idea who this woman really was until 30 people started showing up and saying, oh, we love you and how can we help? And you've done so much for us, right? And all those things. So sometimes the truth is a little more complicated than just getting up and walking away. Yeah? Yeah. Yes.
That's what happened with our youngest daughter.
Right on.
It was at Larry's celebration of life that she finally accepted that he was not the person that she had manufactured up here all these years.
Yeah, and that often is the case. And it's like, you may remember very early on, that we go through our whole life, saying, God isn't here, or whatever, I can't have what I want, I can't have. And then on our deathbed, we finally wake up to it. But then, it's so far, the body is so far gone, it's too big a leap to actually experience it. So we go off into paradise, and then we come back in a new body, and hopefully have brought that new wisdom back in that new body. Right? Yeah. All right, thank you. So, 6th time. You may be certain that you have been complaining and whining about somebody or something. If someone's coming back the 6th time, guidelines for treatment. Okay? If a case comes the 6th time, you may be certain that you've been complaining and whining. And in this culture, ain't it awful is what small talk looks like. Right? So finding ways to chat with people that are not about what's wrong with whatever. Someone was telling me that she loves to read The New Yorker. She's dying to find someone, and unfortunately that's her word, but she really is longing to find people she can talk about articles in The New Yorker with instead of complaining about everything in the world, right? Because that's more interesting than complaining. But of course, she's complaining. All right. But joyous praise overflowing from your loving heart would bring them well and grateful to see you. The pleasant, happy mind is a health giver. Is a health giver. And that's been so fun watching you make that shift. You know?
Really?
She talks about what kind of person she was as a nurse.
It was like an armor.
Yeah.
We will do it this way. And if you don't have to do it my way, but if you don't do it my way, then you can't do it.
Managing federal grants for the county school district,
Dear God.
very similar.
Right.
Very, very similar.
And you had similar issues when you were in that world too, right? Of having to hold the line, and this is how it is, and happy, healthy, joyful. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I keep expecting some of them to haunt me.
Oh, wow. Well, we need
The
to
things we had to do.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was torture.
it was, yeah. Good point.
Modern
When I-
healthcare, we're so proud.
Oh, oh. Well, you did it with their best interest in mind, even though, and they knew that. Yeah, I have never heard anyone on any side of the veil complain about their nursing and their technical caregivers. They'll anger at the doctor. But rarely is it the person that is, giving them the actual support, right? Yeah.
One of my husbands died of ALS,
Yeah.
and the doc wanted to keep him alive, but I could sense that he was done.
Yeah.
He was 60s or so, and so I was the person. I had my nurse hat on. We're going to do it this way because he wanted to go out peacefully. He wanted care, comfort care, and we set a date, and he invited people, and we stood around his bed, and Nurse E came in and put the morphine in, and it was very peaceful. It didn't take very long, and he was happy. I know he was happy because I got a message from him that said I had done everything that I could, and he was happy.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was true. It was true. It was very peaceful. The doctor was not happy because he wanted,
Yeah.
they
I'm
want.
supposed to be in control.
Yeah, they want to put him on those
You know.
machines. So, yeah, to know, to have a sense of what it was that he wanted was a very important thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an immense relief when he left.
Finding their truth and making it visibly manifest.
It's interesting because Larry's last words were,
Yeah.
all I want
Yes.
is the truth,
Yeah.
the absolute truth.
Boink.
And it was over.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Yeah. And I was so honored to be in that presence. Thank you. All right, so next paragraph. Should a case appear a sixth time, it's a signal to speak your praises. Okay? Tell them you rejoice they're giving the free spirit unrestrained freedom through their lives. Yeah, they can be sick if they want to. This is unrestrained freedom. No limits. All right? They want to have this experience. Go for it. Yeah. One of the things that I'll do with people when they're in one of those, wake-up call diagnoses or prognoses is, okay, which way do you want to go? I'll work with you either way. Right? But you have to make that choice. I'm not going to sit here trying to make you well if you don't want to be here. It's not going to work. But I will help your heart be happy and joyful in this process. That I can do. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Praise them for every virtue, every power, every beauty you can think of. You need not negate any disease. You need not negate your past complaining. You must just praise and describe the good in them that had been buried away from your appearance, your awareness. All right? Yes. Express your gratitude for their presence in your life. Soon happiness will bubble over and glisten. And so on. All right. The next section, which is where I leaped ahead, and I apologize, because it's really important, that italic that's in the column also. Let's read what's in the column together. We have a marvelous birthright, all knowledge, all wisdom, all health, all substance, all beauty, all that is.
Yay.
That's our birthright.
Yeah.
That's our birthright. We were born to experience that. As we come into maturity, we get to experience it more and more fully. Yes. We take hold of this birthright, next sentence, by holding the knowledge of these 12 lessons in our minds. Understanding is formless, but it formulates. As each of us holds one of these ideas in our mind, it will work its way through our experience and through all the mind of the world. All right, because it goes on forever. So in the middle of the next paragraph where I was before when I got you confused, okay? We may, sometimes it may be hard to believe, right? Because it seems like it's far off. At such times, giving thanks and praise to the Supreme I Am isn't enough to free us from the past. So give thanks to the universe, to your ancestors, to your loved ones, your neighbors and associates, to yourself, to the animals you encounter, to everything you have dealings with, and to the divine self within you. Feel and appreciate the unlimited beauty of love operating in and through everyone and everything around you. Okay, remember earlier when she said, if it feels like you don't have enough power to deal with this case, just open up the floodgates and allow enough power to flow through you to heal the whole world, right? Or to feed every being on the planet, or whatever it is. This is the same kind of thing. If you can't bring yourself to thank that distant divine being, thank the cup, thank the neighbor, thank the flower for blooming, thank the clouds for being beautiful, start thanking everyone and everything, because it's right here, and it is that made manifest here, and it will bring you back into that space. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yay! Next paragraph. Sometimes it may seem that hardships meet us at every turn. We may feel filled with heavy ideas, right? Our very breath deepening our anxieties. This is why the ancients taught that our breath is the path of the life force. Okay? When you breathe in, you're breathing life force, and if you're conscious of it, you can breathe that life force. You can, you inhale, and as you exhale, it's moving through the whole body. Breathe it in, and then feel that force moving from the lungs through all of the cells and everything. And again, and that's prana, that's chi, that's ki, I don't care what you call it, it's the same stuff.
Oxygen?
Oxygen, it's more than oxygen though. Oxygen helps. I think of oxygen as the carrier of the energy, okay? Because the oxygen is important, but it isn't essential. You can pump oxygen into someone that doesn't have the life force, and it's not going to do anything, right?
But it does go to every cell.
Yeah, it does indeed, and that's why I think of it as the carrier, exactly.
There's a
I know
beautiful
a few
breathing.
Yeah, you do. Well done.
Sufi breathing technique with 5 parts, where it's in and out your nose, and then in through your nose and out through your mouth, and it's hitting the different chakras at the different
Lovely.
levels.
Wonderful.
It's wonderful.
That is great. There's another one where you're breathing in, the energy is moving down through the downward channel along your spine, and as you're breathing out, it's moving up and out through the upward channel, going out to all the energy systems in the body. So you can do either way. But yes, that's a beautiful one. Becoming aware of our breath and becoming aware of how it is energizing us is huge. We have in one of my books, we call it energy awareness breathing. Yeah. So this is why they taught that. And so, the idea is to be conscious breathing so only the healing life moves through. Next paragraph. Sometimes it may seem that the thoughts or actions of those around us limit us. Oh, I can't imagine when that might be. Yet men may gather all the gold of the world into a lump and say you can't have any, but by some way of the Spirit you will come out with more abundant riches than all the rest put together. Okay? Yes.
You know, I have that quote. I had it, for whatever reason, I just read it somewhere through Emma, but for years I had it on my checkbook.
Love it.
I had it cut out and pasted on my checkbook. I found it somewhere, so it's interesting it's in here.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they may hold debates and try psychological tricks to chain your mind or change it, but the Spirit will make a way to keep you free from all such attempts. There is no way anyone out there can change your mind. All right? I know we've been taught otherwise. And we can make ourselves subject to someone else. We can do that. But they're not doing it. We're doing it. Yeah. Sometimes it may seem that new troubles or new pains afflict us each day, and that our bodies seem to be aging. Sometimes we may start to believe that we must take some medication or drug to ease them. These appearances can all be traced to the bondage of the mind to some idea or other. So this is back to what I've said all along and what I'll continue to say. If it doesn't feel like heaven, there's an idea to be released. If the body isn't functioning perfectly, what is the idea that wants to be released? All right? And if it's about patience, right? There's, when we are done releasing the idea, the body will be well. And we just accept that. And if it's to be patient until it happens, it feels a little like a double bind there.
Damn it, Jim. I have to go.
You have to go.
I have to go.
Okay,
Please
well,
have.
yeah, you can't go yet.
Oh, I can't go.
No, I was trying to get done by now, but I've been talking too much. So every time you finish this thing.
Cancel.
Right.
You've been talking just right.
Yeah.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Oh, it is. They did it on 2 sides. Uh-oh, she didn't do the whole thing? She didn't do the whole thing. Oh, dear. Well, you have at least 10 of the 12 lessons with their thing. And your amethyst stone.
Oh.
Right?
Thank you.
All right, and you all get one of those, so.
No, I can.
All right. So remember that amethyst is what she says back here. Remember the signs and symbols. Amethyst tells you everything is good and wise and satisfied.
Yeah, I'm happy,
Yeah.
I'm very happy.
That is funny that she didn't do the whole thing.
You guys
Been
are
fun.
great.
We'll have to have a reunion.
Yes.
Yeah, we
We
will.
must have a reunion. Bye, Larry. Gosh. Okay.
Okay.
Maybe we can do this whole class all over again.
Oh, what a strange notion.
Since this is only my first one, some of you guys are on the next.
All right.
All the way around the table. All right. Bye.
So in this science, we don't get attached to any ideas.
Where are you?
I'm in the middle of the 3rd paragraph on 178. The 12 lessons of the science are And then in this science, we don't get attached to any ideas, since when we are tied to a notion that we would like to see all the world a certain way, we may as well be tied to a state. Breathe out the old ideas and breathe in descriptions of all that you are glad about. Yeah, if you have been in any New Thought environment, it always says, ask for what you want and say this or better. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's because our limited, historically limited imaginations may not see what is truly the most wonderful thing we can have. Right? So that's what we're saying. You know, if you're attached to, it has to look like this, you're not allowing the possibility that this will be so much more than that. So it's at least this, right? Yeah. The last paragraph there, sometimes it may seem there's too much to know to be effective or good in this world. You know, it's a pretty complex system. But spirit doesn't need to go to school. Spirit knows all things. Spirit doesn't even need to be taught what is good. Spirit is above human ideas of virtue, since hating something as a vice may lead to accusations which are always self-condemning. So remember way back in lesson 2, sometimes what you have to negate is a virtue rather than a vice, because we have condemned ourselves or others around that virtue. And that's what we're talking about here. So we don't get attached to this is how it should be. We get open to, I wonder what it could be, right? This is a way along the path. This is interesting, and I wonder where it's going, right? So if we go on with the birthright concept on the next page, our birthright is a perfect world. Our birthright is a perfect world, paradise. To claim it, you must begin describing the perfection of the world in which you live now. That's how you begin to experience more and more paradise. So when we begin to love the home we're living in, when we begin to appreciate our neighbors, when we begin to get that where we are living is absolutely perfect for us in this moment, in this time, and if we are shifting and changing, then something else is going to unfold, right? When we get that, you know, for whatever reason, we've got the cultural limits and behaviors that we've got, and that's somehow perfect for us to become who we really are, then those limits dissolve around us, and we start experiencing more and more paradise in all aspects of life. The next paragraph, the power of the Spirit is in the heart, in the feelings. And the wellspring of our life is fed by the meanings of our words. It's the meanings of our words that go out over the world. Okay? Like angels of mercy, changing all the thoughts of humanity. Some people don't quite feel the meanings of the words they use, but their use of the words will, by and by, break out the meanings in their mind. In the last paragraph, nothing is left for us to wish for when the 12 lessons of this science have poured out their 12 results upon our life. Lesson 12 is wonderful. So we are transcending all kinds of limitations, including the limitations of our own ideas of what is unlimited. Right? And that's just wonderful. So Saturday morning, we were reasoning out, you know, one of the principles so that we would be able to say to the intellect, no, that's not how it is. This is how it is, and this is why, right? When the intellect starts to say, but it can't be, right? We go, oh, yes, it could, and this is why. In the afternoon, Saturday afternoon, we're going to praise the world. We're going to praise the world. Okay, create an opportunity to experience the wonder of this world, saying you are satisfied with it, describing it as the perfect manifestation of divine mind. where we are in the world today is the perfect place for all of us to be, for this generation to ascend, to get off the reincarnation wheel, and for the next generations to be able to create something so far beyond anything we could imagine. It's going to be amazing to us. Yeah. That's where we are. It requires the breaking down of all that we created in the past, whether it was us or our grandparents. And that's part of what's perfect about it. And we get to experience that in a paradise to the extent that we are willing to focus on the paradise instead of complaining about the breaking down of everything. So I'm doing in Ashland, the weekend after I get back, I'm scheduled in Ashland to do something called Transcending Probable Futures. And I might do that in Coos Bay in December, and I might come back and do it here or something. But it's that, how do we transcend the limitations of what we've created up to now, or what we've accepted up to now, and begin to experience the paradise that is our birthright. Yes. All right. Then there's the returning client, and basically it's going to be, you are all those things. I love it about you. Here you are, all these qualities of the divine, and I'm so happy, and I praise you for it, and I praise you, and you acknowledge it. That's the returning. And as you look at these 6, how you treat the clients, you can see it's basically the same set of words with just a slight twist each time. You know, in the first one it is, you think they have, you think you have this problem, but that you don't have this problem. The next one is, you're not deceived and I'm not deceived, and so on. And then this one it is, I'm praising your essence. I don't care what you think you've done. You are marvelous. And then in the afternoon on Sunday, while knowing all things and doing all things, I am independent of all things. I am free, absolutely free. Yes. So you're invited to take each part of Sunday and write a letter or speak to someone that you normally couldn't reach and tell them how wonderful they are. Okay? Remind them of the truth of their being and join the company of angels who see only the good in each of us. And it is amazing how what comes back in the media is different when we do these exercises. It really is. Wow, you made it.